Hi, I'm Tom Whitaker. I'm a chef and a Masterchef 2011 finalist. I run a private dining company called Whitaker Bespoke, which offers fine dining all over the UK and London. I've been working with Udo's for some time now and believe that we've come up with some really amazing recipes, which although we've done it here in a professional kitchen, I think you can do it at home. Udo's is really versatile, and not only that, but I know it's good for me. For this recipe, we're going to be using Udo's oil with raisins and white wine to complement scallops and asparagus. First thing we're going to do is sort the asparagus out. So we've got two different types of asparagus, green and white, one of which is they're quite different shapes actually, and they're the white's slightly woodier and takes a little bit longer to cook. I'll just quickly show you how to prep them. Little paring knife, stalk off, and all we're going to do is just take off the little leaves around it, just because they can sometimes be a little bit woody. You don't have to do this, I mean it's just more of a chefy tidy up thing, but they'll be fine as they are. And then we're just going to tidy up the ends a little bit. Get rid of that. And then I'm going to take the knife and just slice them down the middle. So they can go on the tray. And then same again with the white. Take the bottom off, just tidy them up a little bit. And then we're just going to nick off any little leaves. Fine. Slice it down the middle. So we're going to do two asparagus in a couple of different ways here. One of which is going to be half cut stems in a pan. We're going to look to get them a little bit blackened, so you want a high heat. We'll put a bit of butter in there with them, a bit of salt, and try and get some real charring on the go. You don't want to overcook though, because asparagus cooks really quickly. The other way we're going to do it is as a little puree. This is a nice way to dress the plate, and it also has a different texture. So for that, we just got green asparagus. No need to do anything fancy here, just roughly chop it. And then we're going to pop it into some boiling water, just a pinch of salt as well. That'll probably take 3 or 4 minutes to do. In the meantime, we're going to heat up some pans. So we need 2 pans, one of which is going to be to cook the scallops, which I'll show you how to do now. The other's for the asparagus. So for the scallops, I'm just going to show you quickly how to take apart a scallop. In my opinion, always better to buy hand-caught dived scallops, because when they come in their shells, you can always guarantee how fresh they are. There's a couple of ways to tell. I'll show you once I've opened them. You take a knife, insert it into the shell, just there, and use it to lever it a bit. And then what you're trying to do is, there's a muscle attached to the top here. You want to use the knife and run it against the top of the flat shell and try and remove as much of the muscle cleanly as you can. Obviously the trick here is not to leave a big chunk stuck to the top of the shell, because it's a waste. And then if I open it up, as you can see, not the prettiest of things inside, so we'll just take away all of the gunk. There's a couple of ways you can tell whether they're fresh or not, and the main thing obviously smell. If it smells fishy and a bit off, then it's probably been there a while. And if this thing here, which is called the coral, is shriveled and a bit, shall we say, degraded looking, it's usually a sign that they've been sat around for a while. Obviously when they take them out of the shells and sell them in buckets of pre-prepared ones, it's more difficult to tell how good they are. You then got to remove it from the bottom of the shell as well, so just twist the knife slightly and come through and release the muscle, and there you end up with a nice shell. Just give it a quick rinse into the tap and it'll be fine. We're going to do scallops 2 ways for this recipe. The first is raw. So, I think people are sometimes put off by this, but scallops raw are really beautiful. They're really sweet and soft, and as long as they're fresh, they'll be fine. So, really gently, edge of the knife, just slice through. It's a little thin sheets, and just rest them there, it'll be fine. Our pan should be nice and hot now, so we'll get our asparagus on. A couple of little knobs of butter. A little bit of salt. And then probably put the white asparagus in maybe a minute before the green asparagus, just because it's a bit thicker and a bit woodier, so it'll take slightly longer to cook. that sizzle away. In the meantime, we can make our dressing. So what I've done is I've got some golden and some dark raisins. Soak them in sweet wine for 4 to 5 hours just to get them to soften up a bit and for them to take on some of the flavour of the wine. I'm going to use this really handy bit of kit called the Best Personal Blender. It's just really quick and easy to use, to be honest, and for things like this you can sort of change multiple head pieces quite quickly and it just saves on the washing up. So quick spoon, I don't know, probably that much will be fine for a couple of people. And then a little bit of wine into the top. Once again, as with these things, you can never be too precise about how much wine or how much raisin. You just kind of need to do it and taste it. So we're going to add as much again of oil. Just going to give these a quick turn. Yep. Now we're going to add the green asparagus. So let's attach the top. Oh, wrong way around. Noisy bit. Take it off. Smells good. Let's have a quick taste. Yeah, it's lovely. Slightly sweet, you can season it if you want, but I think for me that's perfect. We've taken our asparagus off the heat, we're just going to let it sit in the pan now. Next we're going to put our scallop pan on. Once again, you want a nice hot pan for this because I would say as soon as the scallop's coloured on one side and the other, it's cooked. They're better to be slightly under than over because they become quite tough. So a bit of butter, a quick check on our asparagus. Yeah, it's done. So, great thing about this is we'll get another one of these and just give this a quick wash. Get a spoon. I'll use a mesh spoon for this to be quicker. So all of the asparagus goes into the pot. Off, and just gonna pop the lid on, bit of butter in there as well, bit of salt and pepper. And you really want to kind of blitz this down as far as it'll go. Just as a note, I always use unsalted butter. You can always add salt, but obviously if you're using salted butter you can't take it away. Check. Okay. Really vibrant. Kind of, it's thick enough as well because what you want to do is to hold a plate when we put it across. If it's not thick enough, put a little bit more butter in it, but that's great for now. Finally, we'll get our scallops on. So just season the scallops a little bit of salt, bit of pepper. Hot pan. Also, I'm going to add some of these little chanterelle mushrooms to the pan as well. Well, essentially we're ready now, so what we're going to do is clean ourselves down and get ourselves ready to plate up. So I'm going to move the board out of the way. Check your scallop. Yeah, they're good. High heat on this because we're looking for colour. Okay, I think our mushrooms are done. Select some pieces of asparagus. Okay, for me they're perfect now. Just take that off the heat. just going to sit on the board for a minute. Right, so for this we're going to use a wooden board for presentation. You can use whatever you like, I just think it works quite well for this dish. So, pour it out. Get this with a nice clean spoon. And the first part of it is to use our asparagus puree. So, put it on there. Spatula. All we're going to do is carry it in and run it like that. Okay, next we're going to use our scallops, so select which ones you want. Yeah, that's a nice one. Chefs always tend to do things in uneven numbers. No one ever uses 2s or 4s, it's either 1, 3 or 5 for some reason. And we're going to pick some nice pieces of asparagus. And just delicately add the little mushrooms to it. You can be quite sort of relaxed about how you do it. You don't need to be sort of too precise. It's just, you just kind of want a nice even covering along the dish. And then finally, we're going to use our little emulsion, which is here. And literally, just going to, from height. And finally, just little pieces of the scallop carpaccio. Just kind of sit them up a little bit. Scallop carpaccio, seared scallops, white and green seared asparagus, asparagus puree and an Udo's Gewürztraminer and raisin emulsion.